The shattered dinner. The Miller household was immaculate that evening. Polished silver, crystal glasses filled with deep red wine, and plates lined with food that looked more like art than a meal. Patricia Miller, a woman with perfectly styled hair and sharp eyes, sat at the head of the table. Beside her was Martin, Jonathan's father, who carried himself with the quiet pride of a man who believed the world owed him respect. Jonathan sat across from them, his shoulders tense. He was 28, tired from juggling 2 jobs just to keep his small apartment. He came hoping for family warmth, but all he felt was the sting of judgment. Patricia swirled her wine glass with elegance. "Jonathan," she said, her voice dripping with disappointment, "do you know what your cousin Michael makes at his firm? 6 figures. At your age. And you? What is it again?" "Fixing computers." Jonathan swallowed hard. "IT support, Mom. And it pays the bills. I'm working hard." Martin leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Hard? A man your age should own a house, a car worth driving, and savings. Instead, you come here empty-handed. Still a child relying on scraps of work." The words pierced him. Jonathan clenched his fists beneath the table, trying to hold himself together. But then, Patricia's disdain reached its peak. When Jonathan quietly said, "Maybe success isn't only measured in money," she froze, eyes narrowing. Her hand tightened on her glass before she suddenly flung it across the table. The red wine splashed against Jonathan's shirt, spreading like blood across white fabric. The room fell silent. The dripping of the wine was the only sound. Jonathan stood, chest burning with shame. His voice cracked as he whispered, "You didn't have to do that." Patricia raised her chin. "Maybe humiliation will wake you up." Jonathan walked out into the night, the cold air mixing with the warmth of his tears. He had never felt smaller. The $250,000 ultimatum. A week later, Jonathan received a message. "Come to the house. We need to talk." When he arrived, he found his parents sitting formally in the living room. A stack of papers lay on the coffee table. Martin gestured to them. "Jonathan, it's time you understood responsibility." Patricia slid the papers toward him. "This is an agreement. You owe us $250,000. Jonathan blinked. "What? Owe you? For what?" Patricia's voice was cold. "For raising you. For your education. For every meal, every vacation, every cent we invested in you. You think adulthood comes without cost? It's time you repay us." Jonathan's chest tightened. "That's insane. Parents don't charge their children for raising them." Martin's eyes narrowed. "Ungrateful. Do you think life is free? You've embarrassed us with your mediocrity. Prove you're worth something. Sign the papers, start paying us back, and maybe one day we'll respect you." Jonathan shook his head, his voice trembling. "You're asking me to give you my entire life. I don't even make enough to cover my rent some months." Patricia leaned closer, her perfume sharp, her words sharper. "Then find a way, or you're no longer our son." Jonathan left the house that day carrying the papers, his heart heavier than ever. He felt abandoned, betrayed. How could the people meant to love him the most turn him into their debtor? Grandpa's whisper. 2 nights later, Jonathan sat in his small apartment, staring blankly at the ultimatum papers. His mind swirled with fear. He didn't notice the knock at his door until it repeated, louder this time. When he opened it, there stood Grandpa William. His cane tapped against the floor, his weathered face holding a quiet strength. "Grandpa," Jonathan breathed. "What are you doing here?" William stepped inside slowly. "I heard about their little stunt. About the money." Jonathan collapsed onto the couch. "It's true. They want me to pay them $250,000. They say I owe them for being alive." William's jaw tightened. He sat beside his grandson, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Listen carefully, Jonathan. You don't owe them a dime. They're twisting the truth." Jonathan frowned. "What do you mean?" William sighed deeply. "Years ago, when your father and Patricia were struggling, I gave them $250,000. Not as a loan, as a gift. It was for you, your future, your education, your security. They took it. They used it to build their lives. And now, instead of admitting it, they want you to believe you owe them. Jonathan's heart pounded. So, the money was mine? All this time? William nodded slowly. I kept quiet, thinking they'd eventually confess. But they never did. And now, they're trying to shatter you with lies. I won't let it continue. Jonathan felt a flicker of hope, mixed with deep pain. His parents had stolen not just money, but trust. William's voice grew firm. It's time the truth is spoken. And not just to you, to everyone. The Shattering Revelation. The HOA meeting hall buzzed with chatter. Patricia and Martin sat at the front, polished and composed as always, their reputations untouchable. Neighbors filled the seats, discussing community issues. Jonathan sat near the back, hands trembling. Beside him, Grandpa William leaned on his cane, his eyes sharp with resolve. When the meeting turned to open discussion, William stood. His voice, though aged, carried across the room. I have something to say. Something everyone here should know. The room hushed. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. Dad, this isn't the time. But William raised a hand. Silence, Patricia. You've hidden long enough. He pulled a folder from his coat, opening it with deliberate care. Years ago, I gave Martin and Patricia $250,000. It was meant for Jonathan's future. But instead of safeguarding it, they spent it. And now, they dare demand that Jonathan pay them the same amount, pretending he owes them. Gasps rippled through the room. Neighbors turned to look at Patricia and Martin, their perfect image cracking. Martin's face reddened. That's not true. William slammed his cane against the floor. I have the documents. Bank transfers. Letters. Proof. The truth cannot be buried. Patricia's voice shook. Dad, please. But the crowd was already murmuring. The Miller name, once respected, now dripped with disgrace. Jonathan rose, voice steady for the first time. I may not have money or success like you wanted, but I have something more. Integrity. And you can't take that from me. The room erupted in whispers, some sympathetic, some condemning. For the first time, Patricia and Martin sat powerless. Their lies had been shattered before the entire community. The emotional resolution. The meeting ended in chaos, neighbors whispering as Patricia and Martin left with their heads bowed, avoiding every eye. Their power was gone. Jonathan sat quietly, his body trembling from the release of years of pain. William placed a steady hand on his shoulder. You see, Jonathan, William said softly, they never truly held power over you. They only held lies. Now you're free. Jonathan's eyes filled with tears. I spent my whole life trying to please them, trying to be enough. And all this time, they only saw me as a burden. William shook his head. No. They lost sight of what matters. You are not a debt to be paid. You are my grandson, and I am proud of you. Later that evening, Jonathan sat with William under the old oak tree in William's backyard, the same tree he used to climb as a boy. The cool breeze rustled the leaves, carrying away years of sorrow. Jonathan looked at his grandfather. What do I do now? William smiled gently. Live. Build your life on truth, not on their shadows. You owe them nothing. You owe yourself everything. Jonathan nodded, his heart finally lighter. For the first time, he saw a future not defined by debt or shame, but by freedom and self-worth. And beside him sat the man who had given him not money, but something far more valuable, courage and love.